Hey everybody, I'm Anna McEwen. And now for Bob Switzer with the Epic Narrative.
Welcome back to the Epic Narrative. I still love that intro. I tell you, somebody asked me or told me the other day that they really liked my intro music, and I was like, I do too. It was one of my coworkers. You know, he listened. I don't know if he listens anymore, but he it was back. It was a couple jobs ago, but anyways, he liked it. He was a musician, and I was like, you know what's crazy is I own that song. Like some artist put that together, and I think I paid $35 for it for the rights to that song, and I love it because now, I mean, it's mine, and there's more than, I mean, it's all rhythm and percussion, and it's amazing. But like, I could use different portions of it for different things if we wanted to, and of course, that would probably involve being much bigger and probably getting paid for this kind of activity by having tens of thousands of listeners, which we don't yet, but pass it along. I know it's kind of a niche. It's a niche podcast. It is. I don't know if we'll ever have tens of thousands of listeners, but it's niche in that it's a long format, which is not super unusual, but it's also not super entertaining to everybody. It's just me, which is another thing. No special effects, no sound effects, no guests to interact with. No, I mean, I think I'm funny, but anyways, so it is unique. I don't know if we'll ever be that big where we can actually get paid to do this, but anyways, we own the song, which I love. And as always, if you can help us out, just let me know. I did find out about something the other day. I know these are supposed to be Bob thoughts. I know. I mean, I'm supposed to be doing the Bob the engineer is like, hey, this has nothing to do with the story. I know. But anyways, if you want to give we're not a 501c3, never will be. Just I don't like the control that comes with it. And I don't think it's sinful. I don't want that. But there are things I found out the other day that you can do I think it's like a 508 something, and I'm going to look into it because you do get some tax write-off for donating to a 508. Not a full one. I think it's half. Anyways, I'll get into it some other time. Today we're looking at a story another one of those stories in the Bible where when you're all done, you're like, what was that about? I mean, it's entertaining. I think it's unique. But why is it there? I know for us at the Epic Narrative, we're always looking for God being good, and he always is, and he always has been. And we've proven that, I think, through so many passages that people would point to and say, see, God's evil, God kills, God sets people up for destruction, God wipes out nations, and we've proven that to be wrong over and over and over again. If you don't believe me, listen to the last 200 something episodes. But today, God's good. It's just a weird story. Let me read it to you. It's in Judges 17 and 18, 2 chapters. Bob's laughing. We're never getting out of here. We are getting out of here. It moves along pretty quickly, and I'm probably going to end up reading most of it to you. But now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have that silver with me. I took it. Well, the mother said, the Lord bless you, my son. When he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver, his mother said, I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord for my son to make an image overlaid with silver. I will give it back to you. So he returned the silver to his mother. She took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith who used them to make an idol, and it was put in Micah's house. Now, this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some household gods and installed one of his sons as a priest. And in those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. All right. Now, I mean, if nothing else, one of the points of the story can be that, right? That when there's a lack of community, when there's a lack of culture, then people create their own culture. And we should be culture creators. We should be, I mean, that's what the nation of Israel is supposed to do. They were supposed to go into the promised land and create a culture of heaven that attracted all nations to God. And instead they went in as warmongers and marauders, and it clearly didn't work. Clearly. And this story makes that clear once again. And yes, I know it means that Moses misread God, and it means that Joshua misread God, but God is still good, and he shows up wherever they are, even if they misuse their authority and their power. We've been over that. So here we have a specific example of this kid, Micah. Micah steals 1,100 shekels of silver from his mother, and she evidently puts a curse on the money. And when he hears the curse, he decides to give the money back. So this is what my little head, right? I picture this. I'm guessing this is a fairly wealthy family. And the son wanted some extra spending cash, and he sees 1,100, a bag. Let's say it's in a bag. It could have been in a jar, but let's say it's in a bag. He knows that his mom has this bag of silver that she doesn't ever go to, and it's just sitting out somewhere in the tents, and maybe they had permanent buildings built where they lived, and he was like, I'm just going to take it. So he takes it, and I think he probably moves it into his room. Like, he doesn't go far with it. He just decides, I'm going to take this money. And he takes the money and he puts it in his room, and I'm guessing his mother knew this. So she realizes eventually that the money's gone, and she says, I'm missing 1,100 pieces of silver, and I cannot believe that somebody would steal that out of this house, and I'm going to put a curse on that whoever, whatever we don't know what the curse was, but I'm picturing the son listening to this going, oh no, I don't want to be cursed. I don't want to touch that money, because if what mom says is true, then if I spend it, bad things are going to happen to me. So it doesn't say it happens immediately. It says he heard the curse. He heard the curse, sorry. And he says, I have the silver with me. I took it. Now, he doesn't claim that he stole it, or that and he clearly didn't spend it. He's just like, in essence, I put that in my room. I put the bag in my room. All the silver's fine, Mom. I heard you utter a curse. I don't want the curse. I'll bring all the money back. And she's like, oh, bless Lord, bless your heart. God bless your heart, son. Aw, yeah, bring that back to me. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you some money, and we're going to make an idol. I'm going to consecrate the money for God, and we're going to use some of the silver and pour it over the top of an idol. And who's the idol of? God. They're making an idol of Yahweh, which is like, of all the things that you should know better than to do, right? He's made that very clear. Don't ever make an image of me. Don't ever make an image of me. I mean, it's in the first set of 10 commandments. It's been repeated hundreds of times. Nothing, no metal, no precious stones, no wood. Nothing should be used to make an idol of me. You can make an altar to God all over the place. You can worship him whenever you want. You can call on his name every chance you want. But do not make an idol of God. But this is what they do. So they go to the silversmith. He makes an idol. He overlays it with 200 shekels of silver. And they put the idol in Micah's house. And Micah builds a shrine. So that's why I think that it's kind of like a family compound. And so Micah has a idol in his house, and he decides, well, I can't have it in my house. Like, we should have a whole shrine. Would be the same thing as right now, is like build a little chapel. So he builds a shrine to worship Yahweh and maybe a few others. He threw in a few other family gods, a few other probably gods from that region of the Promised Land. Smaller for sure, and the ephod matched that of what the priests would wear in at the temple, like or the tabernacle. It was all part of it. And I'm guessing it was a shrine, like it wasn't a square shrine. It was probably circular, just like the tabernacle was circular. Excuse me. And he puts his son as a family priest to keep the ceremonies and the sacrifices just like the temple, so that they didn't have to go anywhere. And they were just, they were comfortable. They were a comfortable, wealthy family up in the hill country of Ephraim. They probably had a beautiful spread. They probably had, flocks, servants, whatever, maybe even a pretty little gate area where you would, enter into the compound. But I don't know if it was like a walled area, but you know how people will do that. They'll just, at the driveway, they'll have a gate, and you're like, well, I could drive around it. But, there might've been a ditch or something that kind of kept people from riding their horses. I don't know. Picture it yourself. Anyways, it's nice. I think it's a nice looking place. And so in verse 7, we get a different character jumps in, right? A young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who had been living within the clan of Judah, left his town in search of some other place to stay. On his way, he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim, and Micah asked him, where are you from? He said, I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I'm looking for a place to stay. And Micah said, live with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year, your clothes, and your food. So the Levite agreed to live with him, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. And Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became a priest and lived in his house. And Micah said, now I know the Lord will be good to me, since the Levite has come to be my priest. So remember now, Levites, part of their job was to teach people the law throughout the country. And so they would walk around. They could look for small villages to kind of stay for a little while. They had the option to teach wherever. And so he left Bethlehem of Judea, which is kind of like leaving, his small town. Maybe he got tired of teaching there. Maybe the kids, got tired of listening to him there. Maybe he wasn't that great of a teacher. Like, there's all kinds of things, maybe he's just like, I just want to get out of this town. So he gets out. And he had, like I said, he had the option. And he heads out into the hill country. He's looking for one of these things. He's looking for a wealthy family to support him. No large villages are going to be up there in the hill country. And he finds Micah. And in verse 9, Micah invites Micah to invite him, basically, which I find interesting. He's like, Micah asks him, where are you from? He's like, I'm a Levite from Bethlehem of Judea. I am looking for a place to stay. This is the Levite saying, like, we could work together on this. I don't really want to keep walking around. I'm just looking for a comfortable place to stay. So the offer is made, food, money, and clothes, for the year. 10 shekels of silver a year, which was enough to live on. Keep in mind that the son had stolen 1,100 shekels. This was a very wealthy family. He stole that money, and it wasn't like they were out of money. It was just a bag of money that was sitting around. All right. Now, he treated him like a son, which means there was a lot of time together. There was relationship building together. And he looks around and he says, God has brought, basically, it's God's goodness that is being bestowed on me. And I know now I built the idol, I built the shrine, I installed my son. We were worshiping God on a regular basis. We were doing ceremonies on a regular basis. And now God has brought me a priest, an actual priest from Bethlehem of Judah. This is going to be amazing. Now it's like elevation. It's like favor. It's like a blessing. This is where a lot of times God's goodness gets confusing because we say, well, he built an idol, which is clearly not supposed to happen. No way he's supposed to have an idol in the house, let alone a shrine and a place to worship God as well as other gods. No. But then the priest comes. Oh, well, this has to be of God. Is it? Or because the people were doing whatever they wanted to do, they were reaping what they sowed, and lawlessness continued to impregnate the culture. Oh, that was heavy. That was heavy. Bob's like, impregnate the culture. That's a word right there. But Micah views it as from God. And maybe, that is, maybe. Why would the priest show up there? Should the priest know better? Oh, yeah. The priest should have been up there going, yeah, I'll be your priest, but first thing we're going to do is get rid of the idol of Yahweh. Hello? I have no problem being your, quote, father and priest. In other words, I have no problem mentoring you, spending time with you and your children and your family, and walking you through the laws of God and the culture of heaven and the way that we're supposed to interact with each other. I have no problem doing all of that, but we are not going to worship an idol of Yahweh. That's one thing that Yahweh makes very clear. He is not ever supposed to be represented with an image. So the priest had an opportunity here, but I think, and man, tell me this doesn't happen. Somebody in ministry gets distracted by money, food, and housing. And they don't want to mess that up. They don't want to lose the money. They don't want to lose the food. They don't want to lose the house. So they let things slide to keep the wealthy people happy. Ho! Come on, preach it, Bob. It's true, man. It's true. And I've never had to be in that position. Part of me wishes, I hope someday I can be, where there's wealthy people. Would I have the guts, the character within me to be like, I'm not putting up with whatever you want to do just because you write the biggest checks, just because my house depends on you. But that's what the priest did. The priest had an opportunity to make things right and to do things right, and he didn't. He has all the things that the temple has, and he believes all the things that Moses wrote. And I'm guessing the priest was, maybe even made some changes. Like, you know what? Down at the temple, tabernacle, we have this, we have that. Oh, I'll make it for you. Oh, I'll have it. I'll buy one for you. Like, whatever you need, we've got it. Now, chapter 18. Look at that. See, Bob? We did a whole chapter. Chapter 18. The tribe of the Danites, which is Samson's tribe. Remember, we just finished with him, wiped him out. His lonely, self-arrogant, and rejected life. Crazy story. They settled in the hill country of Ephraim and decided to look for a better situation. So they've settled in. I don't know how far away they were from Micah's house, but they had settled in the same region. And when you're not driving around, right, you can be 10 miles away and it feels like a different country. So they settled in a region. They had expanded. They had kind of used up some of the resources. They were like, we need a better spot. So they sent out 5 guys to kind of do some recon. find a better situation. And they're wandering around and they get near Micah's house. Well, I'll read it to you. So the verse 2, so the Danites sent 5 of their leading men from Zorah and Ashtaol to spy out the land and explore it. And these men represented all the Danites, and they told them, go and explore the land. So that they entered the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah, where they spent the night. You see, where verse 3, when they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked him, who brought you here? And what are you doing in this place? Why are you here? And he told them what Micah had done for him, and he has hired me, and I am his priest. And they said to him, well, priest, inquire of God and learn as to whether or not our journey will be successful. And the priest answered him and said, go in peace, your journey has the Lord's approval. So they go there and they spend, they come upon a compound, right? And it was very hospitable. Micah and his family, I'm sure, had done this many times. They were they were Israelites. They were at some level family. They brought them in, they let them stay, but the priest starts doing this ceremony, and they're like, it's not that they recognize the priest like by name, they recognize what the priest was doing, the voice of the priest. So the daily rituals, the prayers, now it could be the actual voice of the priest, but I doubt it, because he came from Bethlehem. I could be wrong. It's okay. They end up at Micah's house. They hear the priest doing his routine at the shrine. They go to the shrine. They're like, what are you doing here? Like, this is a serious question. Like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I've been hired to be a priest. And they're like, all right, fine. Well, then if you talk with God, find out if our mission is going to be successful. He's like, all right, I will. So he goes to the shrine and he talks to God. And he comes back and he's like, all right, you're going to be fine. The Lord is with you. Now, I don't know if it's rare to find a priest for hire, but clearly, I don't think this was the first time a priest was hired by a wealthy family to be their mentor and to, in essence, have a chapel where they were taught the ways of the Lord and the things and the culture of the kingdom. It's just that what's weird about Micah's house is that he actually has an idol dedicated to Yahweh. So let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, look at my notes. These guys leave. They're confident that God was with them, because the priest that was in essence paid to be a priest, which again, if you follow the strict laws of Leviticus, the priests were supposed to be taken care of by the tithing of the people. They were not supposed to have houses and lands. They were fed by and taken care of by the people. So it's one of those weird things. It's like, well, he is being taken care of by the people, but it's just one family. He's way out in the country. There's a lot of people at the family. They're a wealthy family. They're taking, like, is the 10 shekels a year? Is that their tithe? Is that a salary? The food, the clothing, like if you add it all up, the housing, does it all equal out to what the tithe should be? Like, you can play those games, and I know people who do. They play money games all the time. I know a preacher once. They got rid of one of their pastors, and the lead pastor took over like about half the guy's salary, because he's like, well, now I have to do more. Rather than, hire somebody, he just decided to increase it, give himself a nice bonus, and increases his salary. So then, of course, the church had no money to hire anybody else. And they were like, what happened to the money? Well, we don't have it anymore. Crazy how money makes people crazy. So in verse 7, the 5 men left, where they saw the people were living in safety. And they came up to this place, Laish. And the people were living safely, like the Sidonians, at peace and secure. and their land lacked nothing. They were prosperous. Also, they lived a long way from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone else. So in essence, they find success. They find this city, but it's not a walled city. They live at peace with everybody around them. They have no military alliances. They don't have anyone they can call on to come defend the city. They don't need it. They have plenty of trade and merchants in and out. It's almost described like a utopian society. Everybody gets along. The people that live there don't want war. They don't want to do battle. They just want to get along. This is why they're there. And they have this great little place in this beautiful little valley. It was lovely. So these guys return to their cities and they tell all their fellow Danites about how wonderful things are. and their answer in verse 9 was, "Come, let's attack them. We have seen the land. It is very good. Aren't you going to do something? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over." So there you go. They decide in by verse 11, 600 men of the Danites armed for battle set out for Zorah. And on their way, they set up camp near Kerith in Judah. This is the place west of Kerith called Mahanadan. And from there, they came upon the hill country of Ephraim. And it came upon Micah's house. We're going to go through verse 20. Let me just talk to you about what's going on here. So 600 soldiers go off. And basically, by verse 17, they had stopped by Micah's house, armed for battle, and they're standing at the entrance gate. And the 5 men, verse 17, who had spied out the land, went inside and basically pillaged the shrine. They took the idol, the ephod, the household gods, while the priests and the 600 armed men stood at the entrance of the gate. When the 5 men went into Micah's house, they took the idol, the ephod, and the household gods, and the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Be quiet. Don't say a word. Come with us. Be our father and our priest. Isn't it better that you serve a tribe and a clan in Israel as a priest, and rather than just one man's household?" And the priest was very pleased. And he took the ephod and the household gods and the idols, and he went along with the people. So here we go with, again, selfishness. I guess you could call it good business principles, but not kingdom principles. The 5 men show up. They stand at the 600 men stay at the gate. The 5 guys that know this compound. The way that it's written, and it's kind of written like 2 or 3 times. They go in. They go to the shrine. The priest is there. They tell the priest. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" They're like, "We're taking everything." He goes, "You're taking everything?" "Yes. You need to leave." So he goes to the gate. He's hanging out with the 600 men. The 5 guys come back with everything from the shrine. And they give a proposal to the priest. "Why don't you come with us? We're going to take over the city. It's a beautiful city. You're here serving one family, but we will make you a priest for our entire tribe and clan. You'll get paid way better. You'll have far more influence. You'll have a much better house, much better clothing." Do you see where I'm going with this? You see, the priest is thinking, this is a promotion. This is the favor of God. This is the blessings of God. Why? I mean, I've served this family faithfully, probably for a couple years. And these guys are armed. You know, they kind of are making me making you a proposal you cannot refuse. Make him an offer. That's really bad. That was a very bad imitation, right? Yeah, of Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando from man, that's an old movie. All right, so he decides to take it. He's like, all right, well, give me everything. So they give him all the idols and the ephod. He puts the ephod on. They probably give him a little cart or a horse to ride, straps it all on, and he's like, all right, let's go. And off they go. He was very pleased to go with them. Verse 20. He was very pleased. In other words, everything was an upgrade for him. So putting their little children and their livestock and their possessions in front of them, they turned and went away and left. And when they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together, and they basically put together a posse, and he runs after them. And he gets close to the soldiers, and he realizes there's 600 of them. Excuse me. And he shouts to them. He was still some distance away. What is the matter with you that you called your men out to fight? You took the gods I made, my priest, and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask what is the matter with you? The Danites said, listen, don't argue with us. Some of the men might get angry and attack you, and then you and your family will lose your lives. So the Danites went their way, and Micah, seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went back to his house. And they took all that Micah had made and his priests, and they went to Leah, and against the people of peace and security, they attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. So you picture Micah, he's very emotional, maybe even hot-headed. He sees that he's lost everything, that his priest is gone. He doesn't know if his priest chose to go or if he was kidnapped, but he rides after them in a flurry with a bunch of his friends and neighbors. And when they come up around a corner or on top of a hillside, they see all there's 600 men. And the Danites are like, yo, what's the matter? He's like, man, you took everything from me. Everything. Now, which isn't true. They didn't rape and pillage the house. The houses are still standing. The money is still there. They just took the priest. And granted, it was 200 shekels of silver that were overlaid the idol, but so it was expensive. But he's like, what did we take? You really want to fight over this? You get any of us upset, there's a bunch of us who will go back to your house. We will take everything, including your lives. Is it worth it? And you kind of picture the neighbors and posse kind of looking at Micah going, I don't know if I want to fight 600 Danites. I'm just saying, it's a lot of guys down there. And Micah's looking around going, and as a wealthy man, and this is true about wealthy people, they know they can always start over. Like they never look at failure and say, man, I'll never recover. They're always like, I'll figure it out. And I think that's what Micah ultimately came to. After he got said his piece, he was like, yeah, let's go back home. In other words, I can make another one. It's just money. So they go and the Danites, they go to this perfect city. They completely wipe it out and burn it. I don't know why people do that, but they do. And then it says they they attacked it with the sword. They burned down their city. There was no way to rescue them because they lived a long way from the big country of Sidon. They had no relationship with anyone else. The city was built in the valley. Like I said, it was a beautiful, beautiful location. The Danites rebuilt the city, probably took about a year. When they say they burned it to the ground, it probably wasn't like dust and rubble. They burned probably some of the major things to let everybody know that they weren't going to survive. They renamed it Dan after their ancestor Dan, who was born in Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. And there the Danites set up for themselves the idol. And Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were the priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of captivity of the land. And they continued to use the idol Micah had made all the time the house of God was in Shiloh. So here we go. They rebuilt the city. They worshiped the God idol. They had Levites from the family from the Levites served as priests. They were related back to Moses, and they had their own shrine and place of worship in Shiloh the whole time until ultimately the country is taken into captivity, which is many years from now. And at some level, I have to think, well, this is the tribe of Dan. This is the culture that Samson left behind. 20 years Samson ruled in the Danites from that tribe. And when he died, they just continued. Like there was no culture he left behind. If anything, he left a culture of selfishness and arrogance, to the point where now they don't even care if God says don't worship an idol. They made an idol that represented God and they worshiped it. And the sons of relatives, I should say, direct relatives of Moses, were the priests that led in the worship of that idol. And I wrote down, because I study archaeology, I read a lot of archaeological books and articles, and they always talk about how the Hebrews say that they only worship one God, but then they find these idols that are attributed to God. And it's confusing. And they're like, clearly they didn't only worship Yahweh. We cause confusion when even in the name of God, in the name of the kingdom of God, we do things just like the kingdom of the world. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have music, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have clothes. Please, don't. That's religion. Religion gets crazy. There's a lot of freedom in the kingdom of God. We need an awareness of how we are representing God to the world. And have we created an idol that we call God and cause confusion to those that are trying to seek him by saying, well, you literally do the same, like you worship the same thing I do. You worship an idol. I worship an idol. I don't know the answer. I just, at some level, I understand why archaeologists find this stuff and they go, well, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what these people are doing. They claim one thing, but clearly they're doing more than one thing. Clearly, they were just as confused as everybody else around here. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Again, I don't know if there was just one point to the story. There's a lot about culture. There's a lot about people, about priests, about ministry, a lot of things we can apply. Feel free to have fun with it. I hope you guys had a great day. I'll see you next week on The Epic Narrative.
Don't go anywhere. We've got Bob Thoughts.
Well, this is a story in Judges that, as I listened to it again, I thought we just don't cover this enough, I don't think, in everyday ministry. Of course, we at the Epic Narrative generally have a different approach to the narrative. And as you know, most judges are not coming out looking like they're, shall we say, sanctified heroes of the faith. But this whole concept of a rich family kind of hiring or owning their own personal priest, is not unusual in Western culture. Many, and even in Eastern culture, many wealthy people owned their own little chapel with their own little chaplain or parish, and it would become a family oriented, only relatives would come to it. I'm thinking of not Sense and Sensibility, although that's the same era. Who am I thinking of? Pride and Prejudice. You had the one who was the patron of Catherine de Bourgh, and he only worked at that chapel. He only did that chapel, and he only did it for her family. And she paid all the bills, and he lived in the parsonage and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of is along those lines. But I think a lot of times people get the same way about their little church. There's a lot of little churches where it's certain families that come, and there may be an occasional visitor here and there, and as long as they obey the rules and give honor where, quote, honor is due, then they'll be all right. They'll be invited back to church every week, but generally, those families often end up making their own idol. They make an idol of the Bible, or they make an idol of the preacher, or they make an idol of their church, the actual building. They make an idol of their whatever, their legacy, their history, their name. There's all kinds of ways that we make an idol, and we say, this is what God looks like, and we are the perfect picture of it. And I don't know, I sat here listening to it going, wow, it's true. It's just not unusual. We would love to look at this story and be like, wow, we would never. But so many of us have. Maybe not forever, maybe not for, years, but occasionally we find ourselves getting into it. We find ourselves getting to that place where it's like, yeah, this is mine. And at some level, we take possession of God. And we'll see the story continue. It never, it doesn't end with 1 week, does it? We've only got a few weeks left of this season. And if you've enjoyed this season, of course, or if you've enjoyed any season of the Epic Narrative, and you would like to help us continue the Epic Narrative, I could really use the help. That's very true. And if you'd like to give, please reach out to me. You can get me on the email, thebobswitzer@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook and Facebook Messenger. You can find me on Instagram. All my pages are public. I got nothing to hide. You can also join the Epic Narrative Facebook group. Love to get some more people in there. We got a couple hundred of you, but feel free to pass that around, and let's get the party started. All right, have yourself a good day, everyone. I'll see you next week on the Epic Narrative.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to this podcast on any platform you use. You can also reach out to Bob for questions or booking at thebobswitzer.com or email him at thebobswitzer@gmail.com. See you next week, guys.